The Library Book by Susan Orlean. Picture this: April 29, 1986. A gorgeous, crystal-clear morning in Los Angeles. But deep in the belly of the city's historic Central Library, something sinister is stirring. When the fire alarm rings, nobody panics. The ancient alarm system has cried wolf so many times before, acting up like a cranky grandfather. Staff and visitors stroll outside into the warm sunshine, already planning what they'll do when they get back to their desks in 5 minutes. Except they won't be going back. Not for a very long time. Because deep in those concrete book stacks, something terrifying is coming to life. This isn't your typical orange-red fire. This is something else entirely. The flames burn so intensely hot that they appear almost icy blue, like staring into the molten heart of a blacksmith's forge. The firefighters who eventually make it inside will later describe it as peering straight into the gates of hell itself. We're talking about temperatures hitting 500 degrees. The fire achieves something so rare, so frighteningly perfect that most firefighters never witness it in their entire careers. It's called a stoichiometric condition, basically the exact perfect recipe of fuel meeting oxygen, creating flawless, total combustion. For over 7 hours, this monster devours everything in its path. Nearly 500,000 books gone. Another 700,000 damaged beyond recognition. The single most devastating loss any public library in United States history has ever seen. And when the smoke finally clears and the ashes settle, 2 questions hang heavy in the air. How on earth did this happen? And more importantly, who would do something like this? The investigation leads straight to one of the most fascinating suspects you'll ever encounter, Harry Peake, a gorgeous, charismatic, bleach-blonde aspiring actor with a serious addiction to spinning tales. Perhaps a few too many tales. Today we're exploring Susan Orlean's absolutely mesmerizing work, The Library Book. This isn't just about a fire. It's not even just a true crime mystery. It's something far more profound. A deep dive into something we think we understand but rarely truly see, the public library. It's equal parts love letter to the power of storytelling, detective thriller about a forgotten catastrophe, and deeply moving meditation on memory itself and why it matters. By the time we're done here, you won't just understand what happened that terrible day in 1986, you'll never walk into a library the same way again. You'll see them not as those quiet, dusty buildings from your childhood, but as living, breathing hearts pumping life through our communities, places where, even if just for a moment, we can actually touch immortality. Let's dive in. The story of the Los Angeles Central Library fire is really 3 narratives braided together into one compelling whole. There's the fire itself, terrifying, almost like a living character. There's Harry Peake, the man accused of starting it. And then there's the library's own life story, stretching back over a century, packed with heroes, villains, and absolute oddballs. To really grasp the tragedy of the fire, you need to understand the incredible life of the place it tried to destroy. Let's talk about Harry first. Harry Omer Peake was, by every account, quite a character. Born in 1959, he grew up in one of those flat, cookie-cutter Los Angeles suburbs where nothing ever happens, and he desperately wanted to be someone special. He had the looks: handsome, dimpled, charming, genuinely funny, and that hair. Oh, that hair, a swooping wave of almost white blonde that seemed to have its own personality. But Harry's real gift? Storytelling. Or, as his own sister less charitably put it, he was the biggest bullshitter in the world. He could spin yarns and bend the truth with impressive agility, constantly jazzing up his ordinary life to make it seem glamorous and exciting. So naturally, Harry decides he's going to be an actor. After high school and a brief army stint, he heads to Hollywood with stars in his eyes. Notice how he always said when he becomes a movie star, never if. He'd tell his family about landing roles on General Hospital, about working with big-name celebrities. The reality? There's zero record of him ever appearing on screen. Well, except for one time. On the local news in 1987, after being arrested for allegedly setting the Los Angeles Central Library on fire. And that's where Harry's story collides with the libraries. The morning of April 29, 1986, the fire starts in the fiction section. Just a thin wisp of smoke curling along a bookshelf at first. But here's the thing. This library was designed way before anyone really thought about fire safety. Those bookstacks were essentially 7-story concrete chimneys, with open metal grating for shelves that let air circulate beautifully. Perfect for browsing. Also perfect for turning the entire structure into a massive chimney for fire. The smoke goes from pale white to gray, then transforms into thick, oily black. Suddenly, sharp fingers of flame shoot through the darkness. At 451 degrees Fahrenheit, yes, that famous number, the books start to smolder. Their covers burst open like popcorn kernels, pages flash bright, turn black, then tear away from their bindings, creating a blizzard of sooty paper scraps riding the heat updraft. The fire tears through fiction, then attacks the cookbooks. It climbs all 7 tiers of the stacks, slams into the concrete ceiling, and mushrooms back down like an atomic cloud. It finds a catwalk and races across to the northwest stacks, where it absolutely devours the entire U.S. patent collection. 5.5 million listings dating back to 1799, all gone in minutes. The heat becomes something beyond imagination. Steel shelves glow cherry red, then actually start to twist and sag like melting candles, dumping their books into the inferno below. The firefighters rushing in find themselves in an absolute nightmare. Their thickest hoses can't navigate the tight turns in those narrow stairways. Water from smaller hoses literally sizzles and evaporates before it can even touch the flames. They're fighting a fire that's not just burning, it's burning with a kind of scientific perfection, that colorless, transparent, impossibly hot fire. One fire captain said he felt like he'd been shoved inside a blacksmith's forge. "We thought we were looking at the bowels of hell," he said later. Outside, library staff and patrons stand watching in absolute horror. Some are openly crying. The air fills with this sickeningly sweet smell, burning microfilm mixed with what one librarian described as the smell of heartbreak and ashes. The fire is catastrophic, but here's the kicker. The rest of the world barely notices. That exact same week, news breaks about a nuclear accident at a Soviet power plant called Chernobyl. As the entire world holds its breath, wondering if we're about to witness the apocalypse, the biggest library fire in American history gets completely buried in the news cycle. The books burn while everyone's looking the other way. The losses are absolutely staggering. Every single Shakespeare play, every American and British play in the collection, all biographies of anyone whose last name starts with H through K, 90,000 science books. A first edition Fanny Farmer cookbook from 1896, an 1860 volume of Don Quixote, the entire collection of 12,000 cookbooks, including, and this detail breaks my heart, 6 books dedicated entirely to popcorn recipes. In total, 400,000 books completely destroyed, another 700,000 damaged by smoke, and the millions of gallons of water used fighting the fire. The loss equals the entire collection of 15 typical branch libraries, just gone. And almost immediately, investigators know this was no accident. The word arson starts circulating. Most library fires are actually set intentionally, a disturbing fact. Investigators release a composite sketch. Thin-faced guy in his 20s, blue eyes, light mustache, tons of blonde hair. Sound familiar? About a month after the fire, a woman named Melissa Kim calls the arson tip line. Her brother's roommate looks exactly like the sketch, she says. His name? Harry Peak. Oh, and one more thing. Harry's been telling people he was at the library fire. He's even told at least one friend that he started it. When investigators bring Harry in for questioning, he starts spinning such a tangled web of stories that finding the truth becomes impossible. First version. He was downtown, tried to enter the library, but a guard said it was closed. A few hours later, he calls back. Actually, he misspoke. He was never inside the library at all, not once in his life. Then, under oath, he says he was downtown sightseeing, smelled smoke, saw fire trucks. Then he changes that story, then changes it again and again. In one version, he's a hero. He was inside when the fire started, and it got so intense that a handsome fireman had to carry him out to safety. To other friends, he straight up brags that he set the fire, then laughs it off like it's some kind of joke, just him being dramatic. His friends knew he was a storyteller, so nobody knows what to believe. As one friend tells investigators, he doesn't know the difference between fabrication and truth. The case is like trying to grab smoke. There's zero physical evidence. The only thing investigators have are Harry's own words, and those words shift with the wind. They give him a polygraph test. He fails spectacularly. The examiner says he's rarely seen charts so clearly screaming deception. Finally, after months of surveillance and interviews, 6 of the 8 library employees who saw a suspicious man that day pick Harry's driver's license photo out of a lineup. In 1987, Harry Peak gets arrested, but the district attorney looks at this case, built entirely on hearsay and centered on a compulsive liar, and decides he can't get a conviction. The charges get dropped. Harry walks out of jail grinning for the cameras, looking exactly like someone who just got away with something huge. But wait, the story gets even wilder. In a move of absolutely stunning audacity, Harry decides to sue the city for false arrest. He wants $15 million. The city, led by this sharp attorney named Victoria Cheney, fires back by suing him for the full cost of the library damages. The whole thing shifts from criminal to civil court, where the burden of proof is lower. You don't need beyond a reasonable doubt, just more likely than not. As the legal battle drags on, Harry Peak's life takes a truly tragic turn. His health starts failing. That handsome, vibrant young man starts looking shrunken and frail. In 1993, just 7 years after the fire and only months before the rebuilt library is set to reopen, Harry Peak dies from AIDS-related complications. He's only 33 years old. He goes to his grave never admitting he set the fire but also never being cleared of it. Whatever truth existed dies with him. Did he do it? Susan Orlean leaves that question hanging forever, unanswered. Maybe he did it in a moment of anger after a security guard turned him away. Maybe he did it for the attention he so desperately craved his entire life. Or maybe, just maybe, he was simply a tragic, foolish young man who told one tall tale too many, and got swept up in a story far bigger and more terrible than anything he could have invented. The fire and the Harry Peak mystery form the dramatic spine of this book, but the real soul of the story is the library itself. Orlean takes us on this incredible journey through its entire life, and in doing so shows us that a library is so much more than a building that happens to hold books. The Los Angeles Public Library started, like so many things in the West, with scrappy ambition and not much else. Its first home in the 1870s was just a few rented rooms in something called the Downey Block, a building that also, get this, hosted weekly auctions where Native Americans were sold into slave labor. Its first book collection included practical titles like Hints to Horsekeepers and On the Sheep Industry. From those humble beginnings, it gets shaped by this incredible succession of unforgettable characters. For decades, the library is run by a line of formidable women, long before that was remotely common. There's Mary Foy, who becomes head librarian at just 18 years old in 1880, so young her father has to walk her home from work every single day. Then comes Tessa Kelso, this brilliant and, quote, unconventional journalist who modernizes the library but gets forced to resign after a scandal erupts because she dared to purchase a racy French novel. Then, in 1905, comes what history calls the Great Library War. The board decides it's time for a man to run things, and fires the perfectly competent Mary Jones to hire one of the most eccentric figures in Los Angeles history, Charles Fletcher Loomis. Loomis is a poet, adventurer, historian, and absolute genius at self-promotion. To take his first job in Los Angeles, he literally walks from Ohio to California, writing newspaper columns about his tramp the entire way. He wears a green corduroy suit with a red sash, and keeps his hair long. He's basically a walking spectacle. When he takes over the library, he brands the books with a hot iron, declaring, "We brand cows, don't we? Are our reference books less valuable?" He starts a club for rebellious librarians called the Bibliosmiles, whose official beverage is apricot brandy. Loomis is chaotic, brilliant, deeply flawed, and he drags the library kicking and screaming into the modern age. Under his successor, the steady and serious Everett Perry, the library finally finds its permanent home. After decades of bouncing from one rented space to another, the city finally approves funding for a new, grand building. The chosen architect is Bertram Goodhue, a genius who's tired of copying historical styles and wants to create something completely new. The building he designs is pure fantasy, all right angles, terraces, and intricate carvings, crowned with a tiled pyramid topped by a hand holding a flame, the light of learning. Goodhue assembles this team of artists and scholars to weave stories into the very stone of the building. He calls it, quote, a storybook building come true. Tragically, Goodhue dies of a heart attack just before construction begins, but his team carries on his vision. When the Central Library opens in 1926, it's an absolute masterpiece, a bold proclamation that this young, sprawling city on the edge of the continent has a soul. This magnificent building is what burns in 1986, and the story of its rebirth is just as remarkable as the story of its destruction. After the fire, the city is heartbroken, but that heartbreak transforms into action almost immediately. The morning after the fire gets extinguished, thousands of volunteers just show up, unprompted, ready to help. They form this incredible human chain, passing the smoky, waterlogged books hand over hand out of the ruined building. For 3 straight days they work around the clock. It's as if, Orlean writes, the people of Los Angeles formed a living library, creating a human system to protect and pass along shared knowledge. The 700,000 damaged books create this enormous problem. If they're not dealt with quickly, mold will set in within 48 hours, making them completely unsalvageable. The solution they come up with is extraordinary. The books get packed into thousands of boxes and taken in refrigerated trucks to commercial food freezers, where they're stored at 70 degrees below zero, sitting on racks nestled between frozen shrimp and broccoli florets. It's the largest book drying project ever attempted. Aerospace engineers from McDonnell Douglas even volunteer their massive space simulation vacuum chambers, the exact same ones used to test satellites, to sublimate the ice out of the frozen books. While the books are being rescued, a massive fundraising campaign called Save the Books launches. The head of the oil company, Arco, whose skyscraper stands right across from the library, kicks things off with a $500,000 donation. School kids hold can drives. Ray Bradbury judges an essay contest on what the library means to me. The campaign builds to this incredible 24-hour telethon that raises over $2 million. The entire city, from corporate executives to elementary school kids, rallies together to bring their library back to life. It takes 7 years. The old Goodhue building gets meticulously restored, and they build this massive new wing alongside it, tripling the library's size. On October 3, 1993, the Los Angeles Central Library reopens, bigger and better than ever before. In the final part of her book, Orlean returns to the library of today, exploring it not as some historical artifact behind glass, but as a living, breathing organism. This is where her personal journey reconnects with the larger story. Her love for libraries began as a child, on those weekly trips with her mother. Those visits were dreamy, frictionless interludes that promised I would leave richer than I arrived. For years she drifts away from libraries, preferring to buy her own books. But a school project for her son brings her back to the local branch, and that thunderbolt of recognition strikes her hard. The sounds, the smells, that gentle, steady hum of quiet activity, it's all exactly the same. She writes, "In the library, time is dammed up, not just stopped but saved. It is where we can glimpse immortality. In the library, we can live forever." She shows us all the hidden machinery that makes this immortal place run. We go down to the shipping department in the basement before dawn, where 32,000 books flow around the city's 73 branches every single day, like a bloodstream of knowledge pulsing through the city. We meet the librarians in the Info Now department, who field this relentless stream of phone calls from the public, answering questions ranging from, "What's a cabana boy?" to, "Which is more evil, grasshoppers or crickets?" And most movingly, we see how the library has become so much more than just a place for books. It's become a community center, a people's university, and a sanctuary for the city's most vulnerable residents. Orlean takes us to the computer center, where many of the city's homeless population spend their days, connecting with family, applying for jobs, or just finding a safe, quiet place to exist for a few hours. The library offers literacy programs, citizenship classes, tax help, even workshops on healthy relationships for teenagers. It's a place that welcomes absolutely everyone and charges nothing for that embrace. Orlean discovers that a library isn't just some container for the past. It's constantly building the future. It's a testament to our stubborn, beautiful belief in the persistence of memory. This idea becomes deeply personal for her. While she's writing the book, her own mother is succumbing to dementia, her personal library of memories burning down day by day. Writing the book becomes this act of defiance against forgetting, a way to save those precious memories of their library trips together. In Senegal, she tells us, the polite way to say someone has died is to say their library has burned. Each of us is a private library of the life we've lived. When we die, that library gets lost forever. But she concludes beautifully. If you can take something from that internal collection and share it on a page, in a story told out loud, it takes on a life of its own. It endures beyond you. That's what a library does. And that's exactly why, in this age of endless information at our fingertips, it matters more than ever. Reading the library book is genuinely powerful because it takes something so familiar, so seemingly simple, and reveals its profound and complex soul. Susan Orlean reminds us that a library isn't some passive building sitting there. It's an active, dynamic force in our world. It's a declaration of hope in the face of chaos. The fire story is obviously the dramatic engine driving the book forward. It's a real-life thriller that keeps you turning pages. But the ultimate power of this book doesn't come from finding out whether Harry Peake was guilty or innocent. It comes from realizing what was truly at stake when those flames raged. It wasn't just paper and glue burning. It was our collective memory. It was the physical manifestation of all the stories, all the accumulated knowledge, all the human effort that we've decided is worth saving and passing on. And that, I think, is the most crucial lesson from this book. In our digital age, it's dangerously easy to assume everything is automatically saved, that nothing can truly be lost anymore. We've got the cloud, we've got servers, we've got the internet backing everything up, but Orlean makes this beautiful and compelling case for the physical, for the tangible, for the real. She talks about the magic of wandering through actual shelves, of stumbling upon a book you never even knew existed, of seeing how ideas become neighbors on a shelf. Sure, an algorithm can deliver exactly what you're searching for, but a library can give you what you didn't even know you were looking for. It gives you the gift of serendipity, of beautiful accidents. The book is also this powerful reminder of what a true public space actually is. In a world that's increasingly commercialized, privatized, and divided into competing tribes, the public library stands as one of the last genuinely democratic institutions we have left. It's a place where you're not a customer being sold to. You're a citizen. It doesn't care how much money you have, what you look like, or what you believe. It asks only that you're curious. It offers its treasures freely to anyone who walks through those doors. It's a sanctuary for the mind, and as Orlean shows us so movingly, it's also become a sanctuary for the body and soul for so many people in our society who have nowhere else to go. So what can we actually take from this? How can we apply the wisdom of this book to our own lives? I think it comes down to one simple, powerful action. Go to your library, and I don't just mean swing by to grab a book you've already decided to read. Go and actually experience it. Walk through those doors, and just be there for a while. Notice the people. Notice that quiet hum of activity. Notice the bulletin board with its flyers for local events you've never heard of. Notice the librarians patiently helping a child find just the right book, or an elderly person navigate a computer, or a student dig into research for a paper. See it not as some relic of the past, but as a vital, thriving part of your present. Because what Susan Orlean shows us so beautifully is that a library is a mirror reflecting our community back at us. It reflects our hopes, our questions, our struggles, and our dreams. By supporting our libraries through visits, donations, advocacy, we're not just saving books, we're saving a piece of ourselves. We're investing in the idea that knowledge, stories, and shared memory are the foundations of a humane and civilized society. We're placing a bet on the future, on the belief that these things matter and will always matter. That was a summary of The Library Book by Susan Orlean. We've touched on the major themes and stories today, but I need to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a photograph of a magnificent meal someone else ate. You can see what it's made of, you can admire how it looks, but you absolutely cannot taste it. The real flavor, the real nourishment, comes from experiencing the book for yourself. It's in Orlean's gorgeous sentences, in the deep dives into these incredible characters, lives, and in those quiet, reflective moments that make you stop and just think. This summary is your invitation to the feast. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity, I genuinely encourage you to pick up a copy. It's more than just a book about a library. It's an unforgettable journey into the heart of why stories matter in the first place. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you've found this journey valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support lets us continue exploring these incredible books together, and it makes sure you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing work. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.